Hi, welcome to CCTV, Channel 17, live at 525, the Preservation Burlington Show. Preservation Burlington is a nonprofit 501c3 organization. Our mission is to preserve and protect the historic architecture and livability of Burlington through education and advocacy. I'm going to put advocacy there today. I'd like to thank everybody again for tuning in, and I'd like to welcome Lisa Ryman.
Jeez!
Friend of mine for years.
And you still can't get my name right.
And thanks for coming on and doing the show.
Of course, it's good to be back.
We've done the show a whole bunch of times, I know. Thanks for helping us out and getting back on the board. You know, the board is always desperate for your talents and your energy and your snark.
It's okay. I was going to say something nice, but I'm not going to now.
No, I'm really excited about stuff moving forward anyway on the board. And yeah,
There's a lot going on.
There's so much going on. And
yeah, I leave for a little bit and crap falls apart.
Everything just goes crazy, you know? Yeah, and I think earlier they posted what we were going to talk about mostly, but
we got a couple of things to let people know about.
Yeah, and update people on things. So let's talk about the newsletter that's coming up.
Yes, so we've got our spring is here, and our spring newsletter is here, which is great. It's going out to folks in the mail shortly.
This week.
It's going to be online very soon. And it's got some good stuff in there. It's got an update on our position on trying to save the former cathedral.
Yep.
We've got some new board members, or one that's profiled in it, right?
Yep.
And the home store.
Well, you're a new board member too, you know.
No, I'm not.
So. Yeah, no, we do. We have a couple of new board members, which are great. There's the website. We are going to be updating the website.
And we'd love some help with that. So if anybody in the audience is really good at web
design and web maintenance
and
that sort of thing,
and really wants to help our organization out, we could certainly
You can kind of see
that
there
help,
that it gets a little flat sometimes, you know, and we try to keep things that, you know, people can click on and see archives of the newsletter, but it's again, you know, I think recently, because it's spring, we get all excited and we plan all our walking tours and all of that stuff. And we try to lay that out and get as many done as we can.
Yep.
That things are always changing and it's hard to keep up with the website, you know. And we've also got like the Facebook page, right? I'm getting old.
It never ends.
I can't keep up. It never ends.
It doesn't ever end. But we've got some great talent. But yeah, if anybody wants to help us out and join in that capacity, not necessarily be a full-fledged board member and go all out and do all advocacy, we can use people's
I think the past
talents.
year and a half, 2 years, we've gotten several people that have joined up not as board members, but as committee members. Yes. So it's like board light. You know, you get to pick the committee that you
get to do the fun stuff that you want.
Right, without having to sit in on the regular board meetings, which I find really fun. But, you know, we do the heavy lifting.
Takes some getting used to.
Right. And then, of course, you know, like I said, advocacy, you know, we focus so much all the time on education, and I think we do a pretty good job of it, you know. And people love that, and, you know, our annual meeting and things like that. But advocacy is generally something that we're putting in the newsletter, that we're watching, paying attention to how things go. It rarely percolates to as high to the top as, say, the cathedral is now.
Yes.
You know.
But we've also got some fun stuff going on. We've got the home stores back, right? Is this the first one since COVID?
Yeah, first one since COVID. So we missed 3 years in a row.
I'm really excited to miss it again because I always have a dragon boat race on that weekend. So I'm going to just have to get the replay if there was going to be one. But that's really exciting. And we've got some new, Marge has done some more house histories beyond the green marker, right? There's a history of a really cool old house.
Yeah, she's a history pit bull. Marge, you know, and they, you know, those are the things that even through COVID that keep sustaining us. You know, people want to know about their houses. They keep writing in the letters. Jack religiously goes to pick up the mail, gets it to Marge. You know, we do it old school.
It's really fun to learn who used to live in your house and what went on there and how it changed and what the people's lives were like. Especially, you know, we've so disconnected with the history of our people and who lived here and who built the city up and why buildings look the way that they do. And, you know, the former cathedral is a case in point, right?
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
it was, you know, everybody's like, oh, but it's ugly, or, oh, I don't like it, or this, that, and the other. And, you know, we thought as a city, not me, I don't think I was around then, but, you know, we thought urban renewal, let's get rid of all the Victorian stuff. Like, it's ugly. And now we're like kicking ourselves in the pants
Yep.
for those losses, right? So,
yeah, I'm foreshadowing a little bit because either next month or probably in May, the show is going to be, we've teamed up with Champlain College. They got an NEH grant, a humanities grant, I believe. Pretty sure, I forget where the funding is coming from, but one of their students is putting together an entire program on urban renewal in Burlington.
oh, cool.
The effects of it, the decision-making process that went into it, the effects of it, the ongoing effects of it, which we're still seeing now as we redevelop City Place and we try to reconnect roads that were disconnected for whatever reason, you know,
Right.
and they're looking into this.
Progress, the name of progress.
Right, right. And the socioeconomic impacts
Right.
of that, you know, forcing entire neighborhoods out.
Like that was
Who
a good
made that
idea.
decision and who told all those people,
Somebody
sorry,
who didn't live
you
in that
got to go?
neighborhood,
Yeah,
right.
people that did not live there. So these are all really interesting conversations that they never go away.
Yeah.
You know, like advocacy, you know, it's Sisyphus or something. You never are done pushing that stone up the hill.
Or it's like having an old house. There's always something
Yeah.
more to do, right? Or even a new house. Maybe the new house is worse than the old houses. I haven't quite decided.
I don't
but-
know. Yeah, there's a rate of failure that new stuff isn't, you know,
Right.
the old stuff fails, but it takes 100 years. The
Longer,
new
yeah.
stuff is 20 to 40. You know.
Right, right. The
Yeah.
life expectancy of new construction is mind-blowing.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
next month we'll sit down and we'll talk about planned obsolescence.
Right. So, advocacy. What do we want to advocate for today?
Well, so the newsletter is going to be largely updating folks about the cathedral and what's going on there, and there'll be links to. There's a website set up specifically for here it is, Save 20 Pine Street.
Divine 20 Pine.
Divine 20 Pine, yeah,
.com.
and we didn't personally set that up. That's a group that we're teaming up with, but they set that up to give people the history of that piece of property, that piece of urban renewal.
And it's got some really great information on there, you know, the history of the property, but also what I found really heartwarming is all the letters of support from folks near and far. I mean, from the National Trust for Historic Preservation, even, you know, our regional chapter of Docomomo, like big names, heavy hitters, all saying why this is an important building and why it should be.
So why is it an important building?
It's important to Burlington history, right? Because of the associations with the two people that envisioned it and created it. So the architect, Edward Larrabee Barnes, and landscape architect, Dan Kiley.
Yep.
So, you know, for those two reasons alone, there's way more than we could probably go through in just one little show.
But it's a perfect marriage of modern architecture, which, like you mentioned earlier, not everybody loves, but it's a really perfect example of it. It's successful in what it does,
Right.
and it marries itself to a landscape architect, a Vermonter, who's internationally renowned. I was at the Traditional Building Trade Show in West Palm Beach, and Dan Kiley designed their city center, their city center park,
Right.
with water and it was just interesting because I had mentioned Burlington and what was going on, and immediately people from Florida knew who designed that property and that he designed the property in the city we were in. It's kind of cool, and you know, I think these are some of the things that we forget when we're
It's true, and we don't even know what we don't know too. It's like, you know, when you learn about a specific like model of car, right? You've never seen it before, and suddenly you see it everywhere. And it's like this landscape that Kiley created. You know, you look at it and you're like, oh, it's just a bunch of trees. But when you learn about how it was designed and why the trees are set up in the form that they are, and the alleyways and the spacing, you look at it and you're like, oh my God, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And the church itself too, you know, it really, it showcases an evolution in Catholic church design, from like the formal, priest in the pulpit at the front to this new fanned out design, so everybody could participate more, and it was all based on canonic, law and evolution and changes in the church and how parishioners and their priests integrated and interacted, and it's just fascinating. It tells a story. It's part of our history.
Yeah.
And it's like, I sort of liken it to revisionist history. If you wipe away the stuff that you think you don't like, well, who's telling the story, right?
Yep.
So it leaves a big chunk missing.
Back to that urban renewal story and what we're going to learn from that,
Right.
you know, and yeah, it's true. And I know that there's, again, case in point, you've seen the pictures from the aerial view, you know, it's this beautiful green space in the center of this concrete and glass
That's such a
surround.
dramatic picture.
It's a very dramatic picture, and there's 4 community groups, you know, it's not just the people that put this website up, and it's not just Preservation Burlington. There's the farmers market is very interested in the space and the property. There's a group of 3 entrepreneurs that are very interested in it. One of the founders of the Jazz Fest says we need, you know, acoustics are perfect in these buildings. It's a beautiful landscape. It's a perfect building for acoustics, and we need a mid-sized venue that'll support 600 seats, 600 seats, and it's sitting right there, you know. So I guess that's the thing, is trying to, again, trying to realize what we have. You learn about the history of what we have, but when you see these gems that are in the city, and not rush to demolish and put up another.
And where's it all going to go? What's
concrete.
the environmental cost of this too? And I know I toured the Williston landfill a couple of years ago, and just the story that we were getting from staff there is like that it's at capacity. Like, we don't know as a state or even a city or a county where we're going to put our trash.
Right.
Where does all this go?
Yeah.
And why? Just like the environmental impact is huge.
It is
huge. It can be reused. There are so many great adaptive reuses to point to, right?
Remember that old-timey poster that the National Trust put up? I think it was like early 80s, maybe late 70s even. And it was a brick building, but it was really shaped like a gas can.
I don't remember that one.
It was, and then it was a magazine cover at the time, and they made it into a poster, and it said, you know, the cheapest building is the one that's already there. And it was all about the cost of knocking that down, carting it away, all before you even start to build something new. You know, so in any way you can reuse what's sitting there, you're saving carbon footprint.
Right.
You know.
I read something similar, but on the flip side recently, where it's not just the cost of demolition, but it's the cost of construction too. Making all the new stuff, mining all the raw materials, making the things, shipping them out here, never mind the off-gassing and the fumes and the you know, safety provisions for the workers and all that stuff.
Right.
It's enormous. So, and as we're gearing up for Earth Day next month too, I think this is like really appropriate.
You know, it is appropriate, and that's the thing that I don't know, preservationists try to make that connection sometimes, but I think we forget, you know, that Earth Day is part of, you know, our
should be Earth Day every day.
Stewards, and we're what we have existing, and if it's all works towards that same goal, you know, to use what we have. I forget, I used a quote one time in something I wrote for somebody, but I took it from maybe the Paul Brune of the Preservation Trust, you know, that a Vermonter once said, you know, that using what you have, you know, that's the Vermont way, to use what you have to its fullest extent, repair before you replace, you know, and that kind of practical mentality.
Yeah,
you know.
which I think is getting a resurgence among our young people too. I think a lot of folks look back at previous generations and like, what were you thinking? You know, like, you didn't consider us. So we've seen that with, you know, climate activists who are saying like, you have screwed this up and now it's our problem. And, you know, I wonder what generations down the road are going to say, like, you knocked all this stuff down. Why? You've robbed us of this rich heritage, of this chance to appreciate our history, to touch and feel and live that history.
Yeah. I have, I'm going to try to, this is difficult for me, I'm going to try to turn it around and have a little positive note now, because we're talking about these things and, you know, and getting away from the church in Winooski or our own one that we're struggling to save, you know, a marble church. That's an easier save, you know, you think.
Subjectivity.
But outbuildings, you know, a personal favorite of mine, you know, and now the state is giving grants, $50,000 for the development of outbuildings into not minor PDUs, accessory dwelling units, ADUs, to help people say, okay, you've got this little footprint. You know, people are building tiny houses all over the country. It's all the rage, and we have
granny pods.
We have hundreds of them in the backyards. You know, and $50,000 could get you halfway there. You know, I had a neighbor of mine on about a year ago, and he saved his little tiny garage, you know, and it cost him $50,000, you know.
So is Preservation Burlington, are we doing a program around this, or you know, how are we letting people know that this is out there, or is it the state that's running it?
You mean, how are you letting people know?
Oh, okay. Now that I'm back, I got a job. I got a new job again.
That's right.
Thanks.
Yeah, where's your piece of paper? I got to write that down.
It would be a great workshop to do for folks, because there are so many beautiful little outbuildings in Burlington that are tucked away, and we don't see them when we're driving around, right? But if you walk and you look through the little nooks and crannies,
you park somewhere
houses,
and you glance between two buildings, you see these beautiful buildings that are just sitting there, and it's either demolition by neglect, people don't know, you know, or they just don't, they don't know the resources are out there. That newly the resources are out there. I mean, you know, we did ours 12 years ago, and you know, we didn't have $50,000 startup money, you know.
I think that's the thing, is like, for so long there's been really no resources for residential property owners. It's all been, you know, commercial and income producing properties, like the tax credits. So folks are used to saying, or to hearing, you've got to do X, Y, and Z, but there's no funding for it, or no resources. But so it's great to hear that there is a little movement in that direction.
Right, yeah, and it, you know, it coincides with our pressure on housing. You're creating housing, you know. It's sort of a little trifecta of perfect solutions, you know. And sure, these ADUs will be income producing is the hope, I imagine.
There's a homes tour topic for a couple of years down the road.
Well,
like
we did carriage
ADUs.
houses once.
Yeah, but ones that have been converted.
New tiny ones that are, you know. Yep, that'd be pretty fun.
Be a lot of fun.
All right, so there we got one thing to work on now.
So if you have a little outbuilding in your backyard and you want to convert it and put it on the home store,
call us up, email us, let us know, and then we'll hound you to be on the home store. So so what else? What are other good adaptive reuse ideas, thoughts? We hit housing
in general. In general, for a former church, or in a building in general. Be specific.
Well, Memorial Auditorium for the old YMCA.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you know, from a true preservationist point of view, is to try and do an adaptive reuse that honors the building's original use and doesn't alter it too much, right? Especially if you're trying to go for a federal tax credit or some other kind of support. But ultimately, I mean, because there is such a thing as facadism, right? Where you just like keep the shell and the inside is something completely different.
I think the Packard lofts are a good example of that in our own Burlington here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, Montreal has a lot of that too. You know, it's not a unique problem by any means, but at least it sort of preserves the look of you know, what it used to be. But I think Memorial Auditorium could be housing. You know, the YMCA building could be housing. You'd have to, you know, you would lose the interior and what it was designed to do. But I think that is it's an important both of them are important buildings to Burlington's history and the landscape. And I think one thing we tend to forget is one thing that makes Burlington so attractive to tourists is its built landscape, its historic buildings. And if we lose that and we keep replacing them with, you know, no offense to current, well, I want to be nice, but like, you know, what's going up now looks the same. I mean, you know, 100 years ago, it all looked the same as well too, right? But, you know, if we just replace everything with cookie cutter stuff.
Okay, wait, let me interject. Corrugated tin. If I see one more house with corrugated tin on it because we think it's cool, I didn't bring my soapbox. I'd get on there and I'd say how we're appropriating third world country tin shacks and calling it cool, and it's like
Yeah,
they all look the same, and
it does. But everything has a trend and a place and a time, and there's fashion.
Oh,
Things
those
comes
boring
out.
Queen Anne Victorians that they put
with
up
all
one
those
after
shingles
another
that
after another.
were different scales and diamonds and but that's what happens. You go through an era and there's something is in fashion and then we move on to something else. But if we take it all away, what's going to make us different from the next town over? Yeah,
everywhere else,
exactly.
USA. Yeah.
You can travel now and there's a Target and a Starbucks. It's like you haven't really left home, so let's not be that.
Yeah, right, exactly. And you're right. I mean, part of what makes Burlington, and I, from personal experience, I came up here when I was a kid, backpacking and traveling through, and I was always taken aback by how much housing. I wasn't a preservation carpenter at the time, but it was a bunch of old homes that seemed intact. It had a beautiful downtown green space, City Hall Park. I was just like, wow, this is a really cool town. And then I would, throughout the years, come back and pass through and visit, and move up here. It took 20 years for me to just look at all the vinyl siding or see the replacement windows or, before I started noticing it.
Exactly, because you had to start knowing what you were looking for, right? And I think that's part of it. People don't necessarily see the difference, but, I have done so many tours with folks who haven't even known what they were looking at. And when they start recognizing it and being able to name, the type of column or the type of roof shape or a house style, and then they're like, they start texting me, I found, a Victorian, I found a prairie house, and people just get really excited about it. So
it's terrible because you can't stop once you start.
No. I mean, look at, Kieran's Instagram account of, what style is that? How many thousands of people are on there really interested in architecture and the features, what makes this a Queen Anne style? What makes this not, things like that.
More work for Karen. We have to do another scavenger hunt. That was fun.
That
Remember
was
that?
a lot of fun. Yes.
Yeah. Architectural elements, things. And
that's got to have been like 10 years now that we've done that, right?
No, we haven't been at this that long.
Oh, yes,
it's probably
we
only
have.
2 years ago or something.
No, 2 years ago we were stuck home, not seeing anybody.
That's right. Yeah. Having Zoom meetings and stuff.
That would be fun. So if anybody's watching, if you want to have another scavenger hunt, maybe we don't have an iPad as a prize this time. Maybe we do. There's a story there and we won't go into that one right now. But let us know what you'd like to see for programs. I think a scavenger hunt would be awesome.
And before we update the website, people can go on there and they can back it up and they can look at some of those really older the PDFs of our newsletters, to see this different stuff we did. The coloring book. I know we're doing another coloring book.
Is this like a new edition? Tell me about this coloring book because I don't know about this project.
No, it was a new student, a historic preservation program student, came and she sat in with us a bunch, and I think she was second year, so she's probably gone now, but we have all the, so she was creating another.
So it's new buildings, different buildings.
Reinvented the coloring book that was done previously, I don't think she did that on purpose, but she came to us, we showed her what we had done, she was like, oh wow, and then she went around and got all illustrations of historic buildings.
I love coloring.
I know. The New York Times got articles about the best colored pencils and stuff. I'm like, really? We're you know what I love? We're all regressing at the same rate.
As a writer, I love pens, and I can't pens and books. I will admit I hoard them both, and colored pencils now lately has been like an explosion of passion. So, great. Thanks.
Too. Yeah, I know.
So when is that coming out?
I grew up with that stuff. What's that, the coloring book? Oh, it'll be on our website or our Facebook page. I don't know. We just, 2 meetings ago is when we gathered all the stuff together.
Okay, so it's really fresh.
So we've got a quote from the printer. So we'll find out what that is, and that's what we raise money for. When folks go to the website and tune in and see or click on the GoFundMe page on our website is specifically for the cathedral stuff, the advocacy. But regular just sending in a letter, a mail. Every time we send out the newsletter, it's got those little envelopes, and people always flood us with donations of all kinds. It's fun, and then that's going to pay for
I love our community, I really do. They're so good and so interested in keeping Burlington's history alive from the tours. And I think the thing just popped up on the screen, but we're celebrating 25 years of Preservation Burlington this year, right?
Yep.
So happy birthday, Preservation Burlington.
Happy birthday, Preservation. So maybe it was 10 years ago that we did the...
Yeah, it's been a while.
Time flies. We're historic.
Literally. Actually, yes. I'm not going to tell my age.
Right.
Or yours.
I'm over 50, so...
We qualify.
I'm qualified, that's right. I'm not associated with a famous person, though, that I know of.
Oh, after you die, you'll be famous.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. You know, all my hundreds and hundreds of little notebooks and stuff.
Yeah, be like, that's a Wanamaker restoration.
Look what he was thinking. What the heck?
Trying to figure it out. Yeah.
That's right.
So,
So I think we've got a couple more minutes. We touched on the things we wanted to. Adaptive reuse is a big thing. I think that lends itself to, like you said, climate change, Earth Day, and preservation. These things are all linked, you know.
Yeah.
I'd like everybody that's watching to just pay more attention to what's going on around town and email us or contact us through Facebook or the website, just to keep us abreast. And like you said, you know, tell us what you like, what we've done in the past, what you want to see more of.
And notice too, like, and send in suggestions, or not just suggestions for adaptive reuse of buildings or these buildings that we've talked about today, but maybe some of your favorite examples of adaptive reuse. I mean, I think in Burlington we've got old firehouses that have been converted to different use. I am a firehouse nerd.
Yeah, I know you are. You wrote the book on firehouses.
Well, one of them.
Literally.
So, yes. So I think there's some great examples, and when people send in their examples, or we find new gems as well. So yeah, if you have some favorite buildings that have been reused and repurposed, we'd love to hear about what they are.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll feature them.
Yeah, we could, upcoming newsletter, I could see us getting enough,
Or if you have one in your backyard, or you've converted one, I'm getting all excited again.
I know, they are fun, I know, my partner Amy wants a shed, and I always say, no sheds, no sheds. And then, you know how the world is, there's literally a magazine out called Sheds, and I'm like, I thought it was funny, so I bought it just to tease her, and flipped through it, and I'm like, now I have a million ideas for really cool sheds, and I want to take over my neighbor's backyard because it's forested, and I've got a bunch of different shed ideas to put in there. Yeah.
That'd be fun. Shed building is no joke, though. We put one up last year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a story for another day.
Okay. Write an article. It'll be historic, and you can turn it into an ADU for $50,000.
It's big enough. I mean, I could Airbnb it. It's super cute, but no, it's not going to happen.
Thanks for coming back on the board.
Thanks for asking me.
I can't wait till we're doing the show more regular again. And remember, we used to sandwich our guests right in the middle, and then we would hit them from both sides with questions.
Yes.
That's fun. I'm looking forward to some of that.
Who are we going to do that to next time?
I don't know. Who should we get?
We'll put a list together. And viewers too. If there's somebody that you'd like to see come on this show, sometimes when we ask them, they're like, yeah, no. But if we say people want to see you, they might be more willing to come, right?
Exactly. Yep. I think we've got a couple of people coming up. I know either Tom Visser or Bob McCullough is going to come on because they want to update everybody once they know what's going on with the program. I've been kind of behind the scenes hounding them, and they've got a format together that they think is going to work.
So we're talking about the UVM Historic Preservation
The Historic
Program.
Preservation Program. Sorry about that. Yeah. So they're coming up soon. I mentioned the Champlain College project we're doing together. So Erica Adonis, the librarian there, and
fabulous.
She'll be coming on to talk about with the staff that's helping run. The students will be gone by April, but then we'll have them on again when they're ready to present right before their program that we're going to put together. So
awesome. Good stuff.
Yeah. And we'll just keep hounding people. And anybody that writes a book about anything, we'll get them on here.
About anything or like historic related?
Well, we'll make it historic related somehow.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Thanks again, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Oh, and thanks everybody for tuning in to CCTV live at 525. Preservation Burlington. For more information on Burlington history, our tours and events, or to get a marker for your historic house, go to preservationburlington.org, and we'll see you next month.